G'day, welcome to the Snowy Mountains. This is the birthplace of four-wheel driving in Australia. It was here during the construction of the Snowy Mountains scheme between 49 and 74 that they brought in the first Toyotas. And for the first time, the whole world got to see what a good four-wheel drive could do in really bad conditions. And so that's why we've come back down here now. Although the conditions aren't quite as bad and it's lovely sunny weather, there's some beaut camping and fishing and lots of good driving. And that's why we're here, to go and have a good look at the Snowy Mountains scheme. And also to run in the new red truck. I know you're wondering about it. Come and have a look at it first. With Milo off the road, I got this old truck from a mate of mine. Hello, Rhino. He's had it since new and he's used it pretty much every day as a work truck. It's a 1978 trayback and Rhino kept it as stock as a rock. It needed a bit of rust work, which explains why I painted it bright red. It's hiding a bit of my really good panel work there. It also needed suspension, and Pit Stop Mike helped me there, of course, and we had to bung in wheel bearings and steering linkages and brakes and hoses and all the stuff that looks a bit worn, because the clock says 300,000 kilometres and Rhino reckons there's another 10 years worth of driving there with a broken speedo cable. I got Cookie to slap on some hurricane extractors and a fat pipe, and I borrowed a few bits from Milo and she was on the road. Cooma, the starting point for this trip, just like it used to be back in the heyday of the Snowy Mountains scheme. It's a beaut little town with plenty of shops to sort out your last minute needs, especially the camping store, where I've dropped in to see my mate Dan. Local knowledge, it's everything when you're heading bush. G'day, Dan.
How you going, mate? I heard you're in town.
The fish are scared?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they?
You come to catch a few of me mountain trout, have you?
Taking them all home, mate.
Rightio, sounds good.
All right, mate. Well, look, the situation is I bought my fishing rod.
Yep.
But I've never had a go at trout.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
So you've probably got 50-pound line on it.
I have. I've got fairly
Catching
heavy line
mackerel
on
or
it.
something. Yeah. Well, what we need is to set you up with some lighter gear,
What?
because trout only like really light gear, so about 4 pound.
4 pound line?
Yeah. You're only heading up into the mountains, so
Yeah.
you know they're only small fish. They don't get all that big up there.
Yeah.
But you'll need a couple of spinners, because I know you probably haven't got the patience to sit there with bait.
So
these-
you can bait fish or you can spin?
You can bait fish or spin, mate. Yeah, just get a couple of worms or some grasshoppers off the bank.
Yeah.
Yep, same thing. Light hooks, light gear.
Little hooks?
Yep, little hooks,
Small
little
line.
gear. Yep, real thin line, so they can't see it, and so you can feel the little bites. So.
Where are the fish?
The
Come on,
fish.
Dan.
Oh, where are the fish?
Where are the
They're
fish?
in the water. You probably just have to be quiet and don't make too much of a ruckus. So approach the water gently and fish upstream, because fish are always looking upstream.
Yep.
So fish from behind them, and just chuck your lure up and hope for the best. Bit of little kit here for you, with a heap of little shiny things in case you lose them all in the trees and the rocks and snags and that. So
There's every chance of that.
every chance of that, mate. So you're just going to have to see how you go. Actually, you need a fishing licence,
A fishing licence?
because you probably wouldn't have one being from Queensland. So we'll have to set you up with one of them and a few rules.
You're kidding?
Yeah, that's New South Wales
New South
regulations.
Wales.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
We've also got a smoker to cook your fish in one of your segments later on.
smoker?
Yep, a fish smoker, stainless steel fish smoker.
Righto.
Beautiful. Yep.
Is that the way you do them up here?
That's the way we do them up here. Yep. It'll taste beautiful.
Tastes beautiful?
Yeah. So all you got to do is go and catch it now.
Ah, good on you, Dan.
Excellent. Good on you, Roothy.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
We'll see how we go.
My word. Leave some for us.
No worries, mate.
Catch you later, buddy.
See ya. It might not go very fast, but gee, it uses some fuel. One of the beaut things about travelling all over Australia is you find out different little tricks wherever you go. And one of the things I found out just on this trip was that there's such a thing as alpine fuel. Now, being a Queenslander, I don't know an awful lot about alpine fuel, but apparently up here it can get that cold for 2 or 3 months of the year that you've got to use a special fuel that's got an antifreeze agent, a diesel fuel anyway, otherwise it'll split lines and do all sorts of stuff. Wasn't that interesting to know? You can only get it a couple of months of the year, and that's during the really cold season. If you think you're going to encounter that problem somewhere else, not much for us Queenslanders, but maybe you Victorians and Taswegians, if you're looking at a frozen fuel situation, a lot of these additives, this one does, have a sort of an antifreeze agent in them. All right, well, I don't think it's going to freeze up this time. I hope not. I've got plenty of beer just in case. The red truck hasn't earned a name yet. but it does show that you don't need an awful lot of money to go four-wheel driving. I've only got about $4,000 invested in it all up, and here we are. It's made it all the way down from Queensland, and I'm cruising the Snowies. I've always said that, you know, that you don't need an awful lot to get off-road, and this truck's proving the point yet again. Yeah, I know I borrowed a few bits off Milo and what have you, but at the end of the day, this is just a dirty old 30-year-old truck with a coat of paint. It hadn't been driven for quite a while when I pulled it out of Rhino's shed, so I copped quite a few breakdowns on the way down, and I'm still sorting it out, but that's what this trip's all about. Our first camp was down by Lake Talbingo. It's typical alpine country, and sure enough, hadn't gone very far at all before I realised that this is why you need a four-wheel drive around here. The track seemed flat enough. It's in the part of the dam basin anyway, so I guess it's been flooded a few times. And they've cut down all the trees, but there's still wombat holes and there's little ditches and stumps and all sorts of stuff. And plenty of wildlife too all over the place. You're never on your own out in the mountain country. Boy, I'm glad I got that new suspension in though. Look at this. All of a sudden, I hit some of the biggest ruts I've seen in ages. They were real wheel swallowers. Just what you need to remind you that you don't have lockers, I can tell you. Not to worry. The old red rocket got through. I wonder if that'll be its name. It is slow enough, I guess. I don't think you'd have much of a rocket powered by a 2H, but there you go. Okay, well, we got ourselves some really nice snowy mountain river trout. Yes, that's what you get when you go up to the hatchery and buy some. We didn't manage to catch any, maybe tomorrow, but I wanted to get some because I really want to try out this smoking process. Okay, now I've got these vents turned down to about halfway because halfway is a good place to start, and they're both going now. Be careful with meths, you can't see it burning. I've been caught out with that before. Now this is the bottom pan of the smoker, and it's got a bit of a depression in the middle, and you're supposed to roughly cover that depression with wood chips that do the smoking. Now you can buy all sorts of different wood chips. I've been told by people who know a bit about this that you're much better off to buy them. Don't use sawdust or something like that unless you know where it came from. Fair chance it's going to have treated wood in it. Might not be so good. Okay, now that fits on top like yay. That's a good fit. And you can see the idea here. The meths heater is going to heat up the wood chips. They're going to start smoking. To stop everything from messing with the chips, I suppose, we've got a little protective plate that just sits over the top like that. And then you've got a choice of racks with this thing. There's two different racks. You can run them different ways. I'm going to place that one down because we've got three quite big fish. Now, for the fish. I wish I'd caught this one. I really do. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic, eh? Now, when you're smoking things, salt, especially fish, I don't know why. It's actually part of the process. The salt apparently helps bring out the smoke flavour. So even us people who are trying to avoid salt a little bit in our lives, we need to get some salt on it. Okay. Now, the important thing, geez, a slippery fella. This one, he must have been hard to catch. He's trying to get away now. When you smoke something, in fact, whenever you cook fish, if you wrap it in alfoil on the barbie, you know, whatever you do, you need something moist inside it, just to keep the moisture in there, you know. And the Roothy way of doing that involves jam. I've got here some mandarin marmalade. Lovely. Okay, and almonds. I don't know why. Whoops. Helps if you get them in there. Almonds always go with fish. It seems to work, you know. Righto. And lime. Okay, you could use lemon. So in there, you've got lots of lime, bit of jam, some almonds, lots of moisture basically. And with that, we say goodbye to the fish. Goes into the smoker for about 20, 25, 30 minutes, I reckon. We'll have a look in about 20, see how it's going. go. Now, all we got to do is relax and have another beer. Oh, by crikey. Well, it's about half an hour later. The sun's just gone down and I reckon we've lost about 10 or 15 degrees here, maybe more. This is the high country, isn't it, really? The Snowies, I mean, it's just freezing. As soon as the sun went, that was it. Bang, on with all the clothes. It's still cold. Anyway, let's see how this fish went, eh? I'm dying to see this. First of all, I'll just put the burners out. And look at that. Wow. Those guys are smoking. Let's see how we go with this. Whoops. Oh, gee, it smells nice. Pico, Watto, get your eating tongs. We're in business. Nice little salad, some fish, some lemon. You can't eat like that anywhere. Thank heavens we're Australians, eh? Cheers.
Stay rugged up. After the break, Roothy continues exploring Kosciuszko National Park.
Roothy's beer allowances, gone. Sub-skiffs, gone.
Righto, Weasel.
Oh, Roothy.
Time you and me had a little chat. Well, the accounts department seems to be in agreement. Next morning was a bit of a slow one. Must have been some fairly heavy relaxing involved in cooking those fish, eh? But the mountain air is as crystal clear as it is cold and the scenery is just out of this world. Looking out over that lake and watching the mist burn off was just one of those awesome experiences that just makes you glad you're out here camping and not sitting in a motel room somewhere. Even the camera guys got out of bed early. It was worth filming. Oh dear, look at the tray back starting to flex on the old red rocket. There's a problem there. I didn't realise it at the time though, it took a while, but that's what these shakedown trips are all about. Shaking off the bits that are ready to fall off, I guess. You just can't get away from the Snowy River hydro scheme, so the best thing to do is to go and have a good look close up. The Snowy River, which was an awesome thing in its day, was dammed and diverted to make hydroelectric power in one of Australia's greatest engineering projects ever. It took some 100,000 men, many of them migrants from all over the world, 25 years to build all this, and Australia's still benefiting from it. Country like this, though, in the winter months used to be virtually impassable, which is why the Tees boys imported the first Land Cruisers to see what they could do. The rest's history. But their efforts in the Snowies did more to kickstart four-wheel driving in Australia than anything else since. You know, driving down these tracks I kept thinking, wow, they're in good condition, there's no problems here, not much to worry about, there's not even a lot of traffic. I kept wondering what was going to happen. Because you know how it is, when things are going smoothly, that's usually when something goes wrong. But, hey, everything's working, the brakes are fine, she's steering like a beauty. I might not have a snorkel, but there's nothing deep enough to need one so far. No, this red truck, it might be slow, but it's doing the job. And there it is. I knew it had to happen. You know, I don't think I've had a flat on Coopers in 5 or 6 years at least, all over the country. And yet it just took one lousy little bit of reversing near a river, not really watching what I was doing. And here we go. I'll tell you what, that spare wheel isn't going to last underneath the tray, that's for sure. And look at this. I had to use a spanner on the jack. I wish I'd had that high lift jack on Milo though. I nearly chucked it in. Should have. Now to find the problem. I don't know why it took me so long to find. It was pretty obvious. A great big slash up the side of the tyre. There it is. And look, that piece of wood was shaped just like a can opener. It directed the tyre right onto the sharp bit and split it before it even had a chance to think about it. Wouldn't matter what sort of tyre you had. Even these Coopers were going to wear that one. Still, no real problem. I've got one spare. I'll get out of here. I was taking it pretty easy, using low range, mostly third gear, to cope with some of these downhill descents, because the last thing you want here is to heat up the brakes and go sliding off the side of the road. It's an awful long way to the bottom, and there's no safety fences or any of that sort of stuff around here. The nearest thing to a safety fence is a row of gum trees, and they could be a few hundred yards down the hill. Mind you, when the tracks get hard, that's usually when the viewing gets superb, and the Snowies just don't let you down there. Every now and then you pop out into just an incredible vista where you can see as far as the eye can see, I guess. This lookout's a case in point. It's one of the few that was actually organised as a lookout, I guess. There's plenty of places in the bush where you got this view. But wow, isn't it something else, eh? I reckon I can just about see the hot air rising over Canberra from here. Well, this is supposed to be a sorting out trip. Well, that's exactly what it's turned into. On the way down here, it's about 1,300 k's, I guess, from where I live to Tumut. I reckon I stopped about 24 times. There were times when I would have stopped 2 or 3 times in a kilometre just to sort out some niggly little thing. Problems at this stage of the trip, one of them is just a rotten bearing squeal from somewhere up the front of the engine. Now, I thought it was a bearing squeal, but I've pretty much isolated it to the fan belt. So all I have to do is tighten up the fan belt, hopefully, and that one will go away. The other one, it's actually a two-sided thing. The other day, she started rattling really bad, and it was the exhaust pipe. And the exhaust top mount had broken. And I thought, well, you know, that's just not on. I mean, my mate Cookie's been making my exhaust pipes forever. I've never had an exhaust pipe breakdown. I thought, this just can't be right. He uses truck mounts and the right bends, everything. I climbed underneath the tray, and the front mounts have broken. They've lost their bolts. The mid mounts have gone completely. The only thing holding that tray on the truck is the weight of the stuff in it, the wheel arches, and the fact that there's still a couple of bolts holding the rear of the tray on. Wow, that's a lucky one. What I'm going to do is just jemmy it up, basically. I'm going to try straps to start with, a bit of wire, stuff like that. Just get it tied on there somehow, get it located. And for the exhaust pipe, well, that's a dilemma too. With the top mount missing, that means it can shake around. Now, Cookie's going to hate this, but I think the only way out of it, with another 2,500 k's to do, is to chop it off with the hacksaw. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'm going to chop it off the next mount in line, which is the one just after the muffler. I'll chop it this side of the mount. It's to take away that long piece of pipe that's sitting there vibrating. Now the problem is, you get a busted mount at the rear of your exhaust, the whole exhaust moves, it cracks up the front, and that's really painful, as anyone who's ever had extractors fall to bits or a manifold come off knows. That's an issue. You know, it sounds like a thunder truck then. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to hook in and sort a few of these things out, and I hope the camera crew comes back from the pub in time to catch some of it. It wasn't long before the old truck was back on the road, or back on the track anyway, as good as it ever was. And that's when we found the beginning of the Geehai Trail. We came at it from the Cancoban end, but you can come at it from further south. In fact, the more popular entry is from the south. It's a butte track. You can imagine it'll be fairly hard in the rain though. But at this stage, with the truck sort of falling to bits, I was kind of glad for exactly what it was. Nice and smooth for the most part. Still, you don't want to take anything too much for granted when you're off-road. It's been a bit of a problem I've had in the past, I know. I just bang along until something breaks. And this time round I was determined that wasn't going to happen, because I needed this truck to get back to Queensland. 2 broken down Toyotas is too much for anyone, trust me. Lots more downhill descents on the Geehai section of the track. And once again, I'm in low range, probably second or third, it depends, because you get such tight corners here and they sneak right up on you. No such thing as warning signs or any of that. And 1 minute the track will be 2 lanes wide and the next is down to 1. But at the end of the day, my biggest problem was not stopping at all the little creeks for a fish. Gee, they looked inviting. I wish I had another couple of weeks up my sleeve, I really do. I wouldn't mind a gold pan too. Whoa, there's something here. Yep, well, I'm always tempted to take my family bush, I've got to tell you. And sometimes I even feel like bringing them home too. In the red truck, at least, that's not an issue. There's not enough room. And I'm still wondering what's going to break next. This river had me going. There's nothing worse than having a diesel without a snorkel. Bad enough with a petrol, but diesels can be a real drama. And this one was way too cold to walk or do any of that fancy stuff. I could see the bottom though. That's another thing about this crystal clear country up here. And I could see that there wasn't anything too bad there, and it looked like it was only a couple of feet deep. Fortunately, that proved to be the case, and we were across. I might not have had a snorkel on this truck, but you can bet I had a Michelle's bra in the back just in case. Didn't think we'd need it, and I guess we were lucky like that we didn't. You just never know, do you? And water crossings, there's nothing worse than being stranded in one. Especially when you're going to pop out after a river crossing into terrain like this. Wow, a big, beautiful valley following the line of the creek and nothing else for miles around. I thought we were the first people to come here just about, apart from the track, until down on one of the bends of the river we found this pebble hut. Now apparently this place has been a famous fishing place for the last, 100 years or so. People have been coming in here. I guess because it's at the south end of the Geehai Trail, it's pretty easy to access. But there's at least one good river crossing to keep the cars away, and that meant there was no one here when we got here. And what a beauty it is too. This place looks like it's straight out of one of my mate's streets on the mudflats. It's all built out of round timber, most of it wired together, the old style, you know, holes drilled and a bit of fencing wire twitched up. And the walls are all river rock, just concreted together. It's a beaut thing, it really is. Not a straight edge in the whole thing. Looks like the sort of thing I'd build, actually. And look at the stove. Wow, it's slightly newer than the handbrakes, but I reckon she'd get it working fairly quickly. And while Watto and Pico looked after the firewood and set up the camp, I did some fishing. Someone's got to do it. After all, this is a famous fishing spot. Unfortunately, nobody told the fish this afternoon either. I don't know what it is about me. I reckon they see Queensland on the side of the hook and that's it, they just leave. Now, the other side of the Snowy Mountains is some of the best skiing resort country in the world, and Thredbo is the absolute heart of it. And by crikey, it's well developed for tourists, it really is. Apart from the ski lift, look at the incredible computerised snowmaking gear they've got scattered all over the place. These guys could make snow in winter. Well, I guess they do, don't they, really? And what my guide didn't tell me was that the chairlift was only part of the walk to the top of Kosciuszko. There's another 6 k's of trundling straight uphill. Well, here we are at the top of Australia, the highest point in Australia, right on the top of Mount Kosciuszko. Now, you can't drive up here anymore. You used to be able to back in the 70s, but it seems such a shame to come through all this beautiful country and not take a climb to the roof of Australia. Right, yeah. This is Basil, by the way. He's a tour guide here down in Thredbo, and a great bloke. He's been showing me all the bad ways to come to the top today. How high are we?
Oh, at the moment we're 2,228 metres.
2,228 metres. And what's Thredbo?
1,350 metres, so we come up sort of roughly
nearly 1,000 metres.
Yeah.
How much of that was on the chairlift?
About 700 metres of it, so you've done it pretty tough today, mate.
Good on you, mate. We'll get to that in a minute. Can you tell me, just for the benefit, I mean, our people like to camp, you know, they like to drive the sort of places. What times of year should they come here for general camping and to climb up to the top of the the world here?
Righto, yeah, so probably I'd say from anywhere from end of November right through to the end of February. We usually get stable weather, but you have to remember, since we are in the mountains, weather can be variable and you can get rain at any time, so be prepared for everything. Really. Yeah.
So Baz, what's the pig hunting like up here, mate?
Well, pig hunting, mate.
All right then, not pig hunting. How about a piggy back? Because I need one.
You cheeky bugger.
Come on, mate, you're the tour guide. Give me a lift. Righto, use the EPIRB stretcher. I'm out of here, okay?
Let's go.
Mount Kosciuszko is a must-see when you're in this part of Australia. But like Baz said, you need to check for the right time to visit. So jump on the website www.threadbow.com.au and get the latest news and info on this area. Australia really is the greatest place on earth. And I reckon the outback is the heart and soul of our country. There's nothing I love better than getting in Milo and driving off into the vast peace and quiet that you only get when you're right out in the bush. And the best thing is, it's just down the end of your street too. So come on, this is where you'll feel the true heartbeat of Australia. Come out here and have a look.